Today on the Daniel Cohen Show from Israel, silence from the mainstream media and Democrats after a career criminal arrested 14 times murders a woman on a train in Charlotte in cold blood.
She was in Charlotte on a light train and she was stabbed multiple times by a horrible.
Why the legacy media that wrote endlessly about George Floyd and Daniel Penny are completely ignoring this story. A major move from the Trump Justice Department after the Annunciation Church massacre in Minnesota to block transgender people from owning firearms. Why the push is drawing criticism from the right. Thursday marks 24 years since 9/11, and Tucker Carlson is saying this about the terrorist who orchestrated the deadliest attack ever on American soil.
Let me just say, I would be totally comfortable sharing condolences with Osama bin Laden's family. I hate Osama bin Laden. On the other hand, if somebody dies, it's okay to say, I'm sorry to his family that
he had a toddler.
I'm Daniel Cohen. This is the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. Welcome, everyone. Big show today. We begin by asking for your prayers for the peace of Jerusalem. At least there was a terror attack this morning. At least 6 people are dead as we speak, 20 injured after 2 Palestinian terrorists opened fire on bus passengers. You're seeing people scurrying here. This was in the neighborhood of Ramot. The terrorists reportedly from Ramallah. They used homemade Carlo machine guns. That means they're cheap, they're untraceable. Now, here's what's interesting. 2 ultra-Orthodox Jewish bystanders eliminated the terrorists. One, a yeshiva student who, studying Torah, reportedly just got his permit to carry last year, and the other, an Orthodox IDF soldier. A quick side note here. Mahmoud Abbas, on the left, currently in the 20th year of his 4-year term with the Palestinian Authority, has touched down in the UK for a 3-day visit to discuss Palestinian statehood with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. What a naive fool. He's preparing to reward this behavior, terrorism, and sympathizers too, who want to destroy Israel by recognizing a fictitious Palestinian state. The world is more dangerous because of thinking like that. Okay, our other big story today is this. Iryna Zarutska. Iryna Zarutska. Have you heard the name? Have you guys heard the name in the media, in the mainstream media, in the news? You're probably thinking, who is Iryna? Sounds Russian. It's Ukrainian. She was murdered in cold blood sitting on a light rail train August 22nd in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is her. You see her on the left right there. And she is the new face for failed Democrat leadership. And the legacy media is complicit in violent crime. This is the security footage. It shows Zarutska. She gets on a Lynx blue line. She's wearing a pizza uniform. She sits down, and behind her sits this man, a 34-year-old named DeCarlos Brown, a man who never should have been on the streets. He should be behind bars. For 4 minutes, he sits there. He sort of fidgets, makes some faces, and then suddenly he pulls out a knife and plunges it into the side of Iryna's neck. He stabs her 3 times. There was no interaction. She was wearing headphones. Look, there she is. She's wearing her headphones. She's just staring at her phone. She has no idea what's going on. And that the killer, before he stabs her, he walks to the front of the car, wraps his hand around a sweatshirt. Now, here is the part that should make your blood boil. Brown has 14 previous court cases. He's been arrested and let go 14 times in Mecklenburg County. 14. He was sentenced to 6 years for armed robbery, a breaking and entering, a larceny. January, he told police this. He said that he believed someone implanted man-made material into his body, controlling his every move when he ate, walked, and talked. This sounds like demon possession. This man is clearly crazy. 14 times. What is he still doing on the streets? What is he doing? Democrats want to lecture you about criminal justice reform. It's shocking. Now, look, you might be wondering, where's the leadership? How could this man have been arrested and let go and arrested, let go, arrested? Where's the outrage? This is the mayor of Charlotte, a Democrat. Her name is Vi Lyles. She issued a statement and she called it a senseless and tragic loss. And she thanked the partners in the media who chose not to share the footage that we showed you there out of respect for the victim's family. It actually took her 2 weeks before she even mentioned Iryna Zarutska's name. The first statement after the murder, Lyles said that we will never arrest our way out of issues like homelessness and mental health. That is cut right out of the Democrat talking point, isn't it? That is a DNC talking point if we've ever heard. Talked about the killer's struggles and mental illness and homelessness. I get it. We get it. But arrest your way out. Lady, he was arrested 14 times. Mayor. Maybe if you would have kept him under arrest, the justice system there, I don't know, after the third time, 3 strikes, you're out, Zarutska would still be alive. Why is the mayor showing more concern for perpetrators, for a homeless status than for a victim who, by the way, fled the war from Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war, only to be killed by negligence? It's like the Democrats always rush to defend power and position and make excuses rather than calling something what it is. Here's the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. The addiction on jails and incarceration in this country, we have moved past that. It is racist, it is immoral, it is unholy.
Enforcing the law is racist, immoral, unholy. No, Mayor Johnson. It's what you are elected to do. Mayor Johnson, with vitriol, calling President Trump's plan to send in the National Guard to restore order to the Windy City. He called it illegal and costly. Well, what's more costly than murder? What's more illegal? Letting career criminals roam the streets. That's what's more illegal and costly. Called President Trump's plan racially divisive or divisive politics. What's racially divisive is letting criminals terrorize neighborhoods and then lecturing people who are saying, hey, this isn't okay, about systemic racism. Check this out. Where's the media? This is a tweet from Liz Wheeler. She searched for Iryna Zarutska on the New York Times website, and you can see there's barely any. Look at it. It says showing 0 results. Nothing. Search for George Floyd. Thousands of stories pop up instantly. Zarutska is a victim, but her victimhood status, and unfortunately, I'm being facetious here, it doesn't fit the media narrative of George Floyd. Same goes for Laken Riley, the Georgia college student who was murdered by an illegal immigrant who never should have been in the United States in the first place. Laken Riley's killer, Zarutska's killer, they should have been behind bars. DeCarlos Brown, black man with a long rap sheet. The media would rather ignore the death of Zarutska than confront the truth about failed Democrat policies. That's why President Trump is sending the National Guard. It's a winning issue for him. It's a winning issue for Republicans. Democrats, are you seriously going to continue to defend and obfuscate and, oh, it's not, oh, it's racist. No, it's not. People are dying. One other thing that's interesting about the Charlotte story here, okay, now stay with me, okay, because this is a major conflict of interest that is being reported. Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes, this is her. She sits on the bench in North Carolina, is also reportedly the co-owner and COO of Pinnacle Recovery Services. What's that? It's a Michigan-based addiction recovery center. So here, listen to this, okay? Here's the connection. We'll connect the dots right here. A judge making decisions about releasing criminals while simultaneously running a business that could potentially benefit financially from a court-ordered treatment referral. Did you get that? Stokes earning money as a magistrate, Pinnacle Recovery Services, working with courts, providing services for people with substance abuse, with mental health disorder. We should be very clear. There's no direct evidence that DeCarlos Brown was referred to her facility, but think about the potential for conflict of interest. A judge with a financial incentive to keep the revolving door of the criminal justice system going, which can also generate money. How is that even possible? Major crack in the system, very suspicious. When the American people aren't safe in their own city, in their own country, what good is the world's strongest military? Zarutska survived Putin's war to be killed by Democrat incompetence. People who prioritize criminals like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland dad. They would rather protect them than protect innocent people. America deserved better. Iryna Zarutska deserved better. Coming up, the Trump administration moves to ban transgender individuals from owning a firearm. Why some in the conservative movement, in conservative circles, are actually opposed. We'll explain why that's backwards thinking. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is The Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. President Trump's Department of Justice is considering banning transgender individuals from owning firearms. Of course, that's the right move. Let's just say that first. Of course, that is the right move. Now, people who can't figure out what bathroom to use and who threaten you into partnering with their delusion or else, of course, those people should not have access to a firearm. This is Robert. You know, we refuse to name or glorify, which is exactly what they want, mass shooters here. So we're calling him by his birth name, Robert, the shooter in the Annunciation Church massacre in Minnesota. This is him in a weapons. You can see him here in some time. He's going over, you see him with weapons. It looks like he's standing in front of a shelf full of ammo. This is right before he pulled off the massacre. Robert suffered from major delusion. That's not my opinion. Believing in the laws of nature as outlined by God, that is not bigotry. That's biology. That's reality. I'll say that one more time. Is that Speaker Johnson that came up with that first? I think that's where I first heard that. Biology is not bigotry. Amen. Yes and amen. We already prevent people with other mental health conditions from buying guns, from owning a weapon. If you're a felon, you can't have a weapon, Hunter Biden. Schizophrenics aren't allowed to buy a firearm. People with severe depression aren't supposed to have a weapon. Why let someone with gender dysphoria, which is a documented mental disorder, be armed? Don't listen to me. Listen to Jamie Mitchell. She's gay, breaking down the issue for you. Listen.
The issue, the real underlying issue that needs to be addressed is how mental health and cross-sex hormones and this gender ideology do not mix well. The truth is that to be trans, you have to have a mental disorder. You are mentally ill. Gender dysphoria is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm. Listen, it's hard, bitter pill time. The trans movement isn't about civil rights. It's about forcing you and me to partner in a collective delusion. Delusions like men can have a period, like men can have a baby, that boys can use tampons. Why? Why has the left been forcing this? Why have they been shoving this down your throat? Why? Do you guys know why this is? Do you know? If they can get you to believe that a man can become a woman and that men menstruate and can have a baby, what won't you believe? What won't you believe if you'll believe that? They own you. They own your mind. They own you. Those same people trying to get you to believe that lie, which goes against God, the Bible, the laws of nature, creation, all of it should not be arming people that are suffering from that kind of delusion. Now, this is the wild part. Some conservatives are opposing President Trump and the DOJ and this push, and they're worried it's the Second Amendment for them, that somehow banning weapons from the trans community will lead to Christians being banned from owning weapons in the future. Second Amendment, look, I understand. I'm pro Second Amendment. I understand that totally. I support 100%. But the concern is that once someone who's trans is banned based on mental health, well, then liberals, if they come back into power, they can claim, well, Christians are the one. They're mentally ill because they believe in a God that doesn't exist, the God of the universe. They falsely believe doesn't exist, I should say. They don't acknowledge him, and they don't want you to either. They don't want government to. Oh, do you think that's far-fetched? No, Daniel, what are you talking about? No one said that. Yes. Listen to Democrat Senator Tim Kaine, the man who almost became our first female vice president. Listen.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling.
Okay. What's troubling is you, our United States Senator. That's what's troubling. Tim Kaine, don't you know the Constitution is written and inspired by God-seeking, Bible-believing Christians? America wouldn't be the home of the free and the land of the brave. Those were not Judeo-Christian themes that inspired the founders. Of course he knows that. Of course he knows that. This is the disconnect. To the left, government is their God. It is a pseudo-religion. Power. And transgender violence is a problem right now. And it has to be dealt with. The threat right now. Can we consider hypotheticals and how could it be weaponized against conservatives in the future? Yeah, but right now we have a problem. The trans movement has already shown in its violent tendencies. We've seen trans activists attacking women's rights protesters, threatening parents who object to their children being indoctrinated. We've seen the library, the cross-dressing library story hour. What is that? And transgender shooters targeting Christian schools. The Nashville school shooter, again, not going to name, we don't name names here, not to glorify them, specifically targeted a Christian elementary school. 6 people died, including 3 9-year-old children, because a mentally ill person had access to weapons. The media barely mentions the trans status. They called it a hate crime against the LGBTQ community, instead of what it actually is, a hate crime by the LGBTQ community against Christians. The mainstream media prefers to highlight a voice that will deceive you, like, goodness gracious, Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. Listen to this insane response. Why did the Minneapolis shooter do it? We'll never know. Listen.
He was an all-purpose hater, by the way. Hated groups left, right, you name it. There's no way to pin an ideology on this, and I think people should remember this as the facts come out.
No way to pin the idea. No way to pin it. He told us as much. He left a long manifesto. He said he hates God, hates Jews, hates Christians, hates Israel and President Trump. Recorded some gloomy, macabre 11-minute video that he posted. He wasn't trying to hide it. We'll never know. We do know. He told us as much. We cannot arm people like that. We can't arm someone who thinks that reality is whatever they want it to be and whatever they feel it is. It is a luxury we don't have. The Second Amendment is about the right to defend oneself. Law-abiding citizens. It's sane. To protect speech, to protect your other constitutional rights. Second Amendment, very important. It's not about arming the mentally ill. Matthew 7:16, it says, by their fruits you will know them. The fruits of the trans movement is violence, confusion, delusion, demonic possession, attacks against children, mass shootings at schools, attacks on women. We've seen the fruit. We've seen it. We must stop arming the tree. Coming up next, Tucker Carlson doesn't think Hamas are jihadists. Apparently, we need to read the Hamas charter. We're going to do that. A lesson in terrorism 101 for Tucker Carlson and everybody else who's completely blinded about who Hamas really is. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is The Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is The Daniel Cohen Show, Real Life Network. You know, I've got to be honest with you. Every time I think I've heard something and I say, oh, no, that's not right. Every time I hear a new conspiracy theory, some crazy thing from Tucker Carlson, I think, no, like, you can't surprise me. You can't get any lower. Wrong. Tucker is saying that he's not sure that Hamas is a group of bloodthirsty, radical Islamic jihadists like they say they are. He thinks it's more like a political organization.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization. But whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're al-Qaeda.
Yeah, they are telling us who they are. You know, Tucker, if Hamas heard you say that you weren't sure that they're jihadis, I think they'd be offended. They would be offended. I think that they've worked their entire careers to be the best jihadists that they could be. And you're trying to take that away from them, Tucker. You know, there's a Hamas break room. The break room has got 5x7 portraits. They're all hanging up on the wall, and it's recognizing the jihadi of the month. One more act of terror, and you get a free set of steak knives. Maybe steak knives is a bad joke. Okay, forget steak knives. A gold pen. You get the point. You get the point. Tucker, and to everybody else out there doubting, read the charter, the Hamas charter. It's not me saying it. It's in black and white. It's them saying it in blood red. Listen, this is what Hamas actually believes, and this is from their own founding document. Article 6, the Hamas charter. It says that Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it. What are we showing you? This is video from Gaza last week that surfaced. Actually, just come back to me. Come back to me. That's who Hamas is, though. Beating their own people in Gaza. Hungry people who are coming for food. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. What political organization has that as its platform? Democrats, Republicans, terrorists. Here's the call to jihad. The day the enemies usurp part of Muslim land, jihad becomes the individual duty of every Muslim. In the face of the Jews' usurpation, it is compulsory that the banner of jihad be raised. It sounds pretty jihadi. That's pretty jihadi. Maybe they didn't have the word. No, they had the word jihad in there. Jihad becomes the individual duty. Oh, wait, there's more. The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind stones and trees, the stones and trees will say, "Oh, Muslim, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him." It is their foundational document. It's what gets them out of bed. Killing Jews. It's not my radical interpretation. That is what they say. It's what they believe. The slogan is, quote, Allah, its target, the prophet, is its model, the Quran, its constitution, Jihad, its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of wishes. Sounds like a political organization, right? Which political organization is that? Like the Democrat Party, but with more suicide bombers? I mean, what? Jihad being the path. Did you catch that? Jihad. I guess they changed the charter and nobody informed Tucker. Look, enough bashing Tucker here. Article 13 of the charter, it says there is no solution for the Palestinian problem except by jihad. Proposals, initiatives, international conferences, a waste of time and exercise in futility. That's a quote again. It's them saying that. They reject peace. They reject negotiations. They reject diplomacy. Their solution, their goal is a holy war. And it's not just anti-Israel. It's anti-Semitic. The charter quotes the protocols of the elders of Zion and claims that the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. They don't just want to destroy Israel. They want to kill all Jews everywhere. That's not politics. That's not just me saying it. That's genocide. Listen. Listen.
In the Quran, chapter number 9, verse number 29, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the Muslims to kill the Christians, Jews, and if they do not surrender, then they have to pay jizya. Jizya is basically protection.
It's a tax. A jizya is a tax. If you're not Muslim, if you're a non-Muslim, you pay a tax for the crime of not being a Muslim. It's called jizya. And it doesn't stop with Jews. The charter, it talks about establishing Islamic rule over all the land, including all the land where Christians live, all the land where Jews live, all the land where there are non-Muslims. They've attacked Christian churches. They've murdered Christian families. They've driven Christians out of Gaza. There are almost no Christians left. There was an Arab Christian community. Just like there was a strong Arab Christian community in Bethlehem, it's minuscule. There is an Arab Christian community in Nazareth, not like it once was. Let's look ahead. On Thursday, America marks 24 years since 9/11, the worst radical Islamic terror attack on American soil in U.S. history. This image, do you remember? You remember people leaping from the Twin Towers? I know this is disturbing to watch. Leaping because they are facing a Sophie's choice. Stay, be burned alive as fire's approaching, building eventually collapses, or be in control, the last decision that they would ever make to not be burned to death was to leap from the top of the Twin Towers. The 9/11 hijackers followed the same ideology as Hamas, believe the same things, quote the same verses that we just quoted for you. One more, and I hope you remember this, about Osama bin Laden, who orchestrated 9/11, who changed America, who stole an innocence, who stole so much, shattered families for generations. And people in our media who are more concerned about the sympathy towards Osama bin Laden. Listen to this.
Let me just say, I would be totally comfortable sharing condolences with Osama bin Laden's family. I hate Osama bin Laden. On the other hand, if somebody dies, it's okay to say, I'm sorry to his family that
he had a toddler.
He had a toddler. So what? How many fathers and mothers did Osama bin Laden murder that had toddlers? How many people were just going to work one day and the trajectory of their families' lives have permanently been altered? Listen. Is this on? Listen. If Hamas aren't jihadists, there's no such thing as jihad. If the organization that massacred families on October 7th, that beheaded babies, that sexually assaulted women, and I'm putting it nicely, they did way worse, and you know it, and burned children alive, and did every other unspeakable thing, if that's not jihad, the word has no meaning. This is what happens, Tucker, when conservatives become so anti-establishment that they start supporting America's enemies, Israel's enemies. When being contrarian is more important than being right. I used to love Tucker Carlson. I loved his monologues. Did you? I'll admit, I'd sit down and watch his monologues. I was like, it's brilliant. It's so unique, incredible insight. And now he's making excuses for terrorism and wants to console the families of those who wish death to America and Israel. What happened? And to people there that are supporting him. There is a difference between questioning a narrative that the government is saying and defending terror. There's a difference between opposing endless wars and supporting genocide. Hamas is a terror organization. Period. Jihadists. Period. They want to kill Jews and Christians. Period. I'm a Jewish follower of Yeshua. They want to kill me first, twice. Make sure I'm really dead. Psalm 94:16, it says, "Who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will take a stand for me against evildoers?" Conservatives are supposed to stand against evil, not make excuses for it. We are supposed to defend the innocent and not rationalize their murder. Does this look like a political party to you? One more piece of video. This is from the unedited Hamas massacre footage. I was in the first group of international journalists that saw that. This is Hamas throwing a grenade into a bomb shelter. There was a father there who shielded his two sons, and you can see as the smoke clears, that's the father laying on the ground. He's dead. The terrorists then took those two boys inside that home and helped themselves to what was in the refrigerator. Hey, do you have any orange juice? And they're crying and they're sobbing and they're saying, "You just killed our father. My dad is dead." The boys are trying to console each other. It's sick. These people are satanic. Hamas, they are jihadists. They are the bad guys, and it is that simple. End of story. Still ahead. Texas finally waking up to China buying farmland near military bases. Better late than never. But why did it take so long? Why? We're going to break it down. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is banning Red China from owning farmland deep in the heart of Texas.
This is very simple. Hostile foreign adversaries like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, as well as foreign terrorist organizations like Transgender, must not be allowed to own land in Texas, period.
Yes.
One of the bills I'm going to sign is SB 17. It's the strongest law in the United States to prohibit foreign adversaries from buying land in our great state.
Absolutely. Yes. My question is, what took so long? What took so long? Better late than never, but seriously, what took so long? China is America's greatest threat on the global stage. They are preparing for war with us, with the United States, right now. They have been for decades. The United States is letting China buy up farmland and buy up land around military installations. That is insane. In case you have any doubts about China's intentions, did you catch this is the military parade that they just held last week? A show of force. CNN's anchors slobbering, drooling all over themselves. Putin was there. Xi Jinping obviously was there. Kim Jong-un was there. So let's get this straight. The United States doesn't own any land in China. Americans can't buy property in China. American companies can't freely operate in China. But China has been allowed to buy thousands of acres. I believe it's over 300,000 acres of American farmland, including property near our most sensitive military bases. What? How does that make any sense? My goodness, this is like letting the axes of evil buy up the land around Pearl Harbor. It's like selling property to the Soviets next to the Pentagon during the Cold War. Look at Dallas, Texas. Do you see this video? These are Muslims. This is self-flagellation, and they're hitting themselves because of the death of an imam. That's the short of it. Where they're supposed to, because of the pain of losing that imam, they're supposed to hurt themselves. But that's not all that's happening in Texas. There are Muslims that have been trying to create Muslim-only neighborhoods throughout the state. They're trying to establish Sharia law zones where American laws don't apply. Good on you, Texas, for waking up now. But why does it seem so incomprehensible? Guys, ladies, listen. Why does it seem like such a far stretch that America has enemies and those enemies want to bring down the strongest nation in the world? Our adversaries aren't hiding their intentions. China openly talks about displacing America as the global superpower. Islamic extremists openly call for the destruction of the West. There's no subtlety. Listen to Bob Lighthizer. This was President Trump's former trade chief talking about the threat from China.
China, to me, is an existential threat to the United States. It is a very, very competent adversary. China views itself as number one in the world and wants to be that way. Yep. They view us as in the way.
In the way. But America, we are so big. It takes time. It's like a Jenga tower, you're right? It's like one brick, one block at a time. It takes time, but we have to wake up. We're asleep at the wheel. The Biden administration. Do you guys remember? Of course you do. The Chinese spy balloon. Do you remember this? Just floating across the entire Western hemisphere. Did I say hemisphere? Hemisphere. And who spotted it first? It was people. Just looking up. There was somebody in Montana that I first heard. He was like, hey, what is this thing? What is this thing that's just floating across the United States of America? The Biden administration allowed that to happen? Wow. Well, some other places are starting to slowly wake up, especially Europe. Europe is, it's a civil war right now. That's exactly what it is. Europe is fighting for its survival. Germany is cracking down on pro-Hamas demonstrations. German police have tired of being nice. They're arresting people for, the people wearing the keffiyehs and wearing the same clothes as Hamas and carrying the same flag that supports a terror organization. I want you to watch this it's not very long. But German police just taking down pro-Hamas sympathizers. Yeah. Good for you, Germany. Good for you. Britain's in a lot of trouble. The UK, look, it's actually getting worse. British police have become a joke. I mean, a total joke. I don't know if you can hear that. This is an angry Islamic mob chanting shame on you to the police officers, pushing them back. They eventually forced them to leave. Who's in charge? Who is in charge? In Great Britain, the birthplace of parliamentary democracy, the conquered are dictating to the conquerors. When foreign enemies buy your land, when foreign ideologies control your streets, do you really have a country anymore? When Chinese communists own your farmland and Islamic extremists control your neighborhoods, Are you still a sovereign nation? A country isn't just lines on a map. It's sovereignty, it's borders, it's culture, law and order, things that people share and agree on. Those people aren't interested in assimilating. Texas is starting to address, finally, the question correctly. Deep red Texas. Can't believe it's gotten that bad. Saying no to Chinese land ownership, absolutely correct. Hopefully it leads other states to do the exact same thing. Saying no to Islamic enclaves is probably the better word. The governor of Texas choosing America over political correctness. Other states step up, follow suit. Stop selling our homeland to our enemies and stop letting our adversaries' foreign ideologies override American law. Deuteronomy 28:43, it says, the foreigners who reside among you the foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, and you will sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, you will be the tail. It's exactly what's happening. In the UK, the tail. We're selling our birthright for a bowl of political correctness. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is the Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. Coming up, a real life moment that warmed our hearts. In a world filled with darkness and hatred, especially toward Israel, sometimes we see a ray of sunshine. "71,000 people gathering together here right before they march to stamp out anti-Semitism in the UK. Jews and Christians declaring support for Israel, God's covenant nation, in the face of rising hatred. And did you notice the video? Can you show that second part again, Dor? Notice the flags. You see British flags. You see Israeli flags. In America, at these pro-Hamas rallies, we don't see American flags there at all. Doesn't that tell you everything about the intention of the people behind the movement? Incredible job. Those 71,000 of you, that takes bravery. You know, we traveled to Prague, my family, with my son for a baseball tournament. We didn't wear anything Israel on the plane. We were advised not to. I would have, but they said, hey, for our safety, an El Al flight from Israel to Prague. Of course, it's full of Jews. Of course it is. Took bravery to go out there and to march with an Israeli flag and the British flag, the Union Jack. God bless you. We see you. That took courage. That took faith. And that took real love. That was real love. You know, when we fail to protect innocent people, whether it's Ukrainian refugees, Israeli hostages, or American children, we betray everything our nation stands for. We betray the promise of America. Psalm 82, it commands us. It says, defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. God commands us to protect the vulnerable. God demands justice for the innocent. He requires that we stand against evil. America, this fight is at your door. There's no more hiding from it. You have to choose. Which side are you on? Are you for protecting the weak or coddling the wicked? Defending the righteous or excusing evil? The answer to that question will determine whether America survives as a nation or erodes into further chaos. Iryna Zarutska deserved better. Ukrainian people, American people deserve better. God demands better. Proverbs 21:15, It says, when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. It's time to make America safe again. Thank you for being here. I'm Daniel Cohen. This is The Daniel Cohen Show on the Real Life Network. We'll see you next time from Israel. Goodbye, everybody.